was playing over in the World Championship qualifiers. Obviously, I don't think hitting King of Games is going to be much of a challenge, but doing it in a timely manner very much could be. 5 wins in a row is no small feat, and it's usually a matter of grinding. But before we can even get to that, we are going to need to climb from Gold 2 to Gold 5. So let us start by setting 4 cards face down and seeing where we go from there. Our opponent is actually on a Psychic deck, as they're using Roman with a non-legend skill. Only 2 monsters in attack mode, leaving us with a Connector Dog and a Particle Acceleration. Unfortunately, this Ghost Cyclone is not live, so we might be getting rid of it with our skill. Let's go ahead and Acceleration, as we really don't want to leave a negate attack if we have the option. Then activate our skill, Maximum Ragnarok. And rather than Cyclone, I'm thinking I might actually get rid of the Reincarnation, just because spell trap removal is incredibly important in the current format. Let's go ahead, bring out 2 copies of Mani, and then see where we go from there. Hopefully, they aren't able to stop us from clearing out these monsters. We do have a Ghost Cyclone face down, so we should be activating our Mani to lower the monsters in our graveyard. We can only have 1 monster in the grave if we want our Cyclone to be live. So we are going to empty our graveyard entirely, and then enter the battle phase. And our attacks actually do manage to connect. Off to a good start. Over to their move, we will see on how they do. Crimson, I do not think I made it to Worlds, unfortunately. I only came in roughly 9th in North America. I was in the lead for the first 2 days or so, but I wasn't able to keep up the momentum. Maybe next year. Alright, so we see Speedy Performer boosting up the piece holder up to 1900. But that still is not enough to actually clear out either of my monsters. Presumably something like a Prima Katana would come in next, as that would be able to do the buff they need. But maybe they just wanted to spend the Speedy Performer to get another monster into the graveyard. We see Start, which I believe is the one that special summons. No. All it does is add a normal monster to hand. So they still could be able to use a second tribute summon if they bring out the Candy and then tribute off the piece holder as well. And with Candy in attack mode, almost certainly no. Jump up, sends it to the graveyard, and with a second boss monster, Prima Katana, they are going to be able to clear through this board. And it is quite a significant push. And what is worse, my Cyclone doesn't do anything if they don't have any set cards. And we are down to just 700 life points against a Psychic deck. Not where we want to be. Fortunately for us, Psychic decks don't have any built-in piercing. So, let's just go ahead, set our hand, and pass it over. Welcome, Paco. So if we are able to bring in an Yggdrago, and they leave something like a 1500 monster on the board, we would be able to beat over it to clear. Alright, our opponent has the Jampy check, and are definitely going to be destroying our reincarnation, I imagine. Notably, they still have the chance to draw into negate attack at any given time. And with all the life point gain, we are not going to be able to actually kill them, even with an Yggdrago. And the Peace Holder comes down. My board is cleared, but they also know I have a Ghost Cyclone face down. So we will see if we are able to hit a card we need. Cyclone pop. And it wasn't anything important. We have 2 of the Yggdrago pieces, but that doesn't really do anything for us. I think we Cyclone again, as hitting a trap card would be game ending. Now, we are able to bring in the Attitude Hydron, but I'm still not really convinced that is a good idea. We really want to find something like a Chaos Temptron to go plus. I think we are simply going to end our turn again. And maybe try to draw into something like Chaos Temptron, or at the minimum, our negate attack. They've already used the Jamp check, so our back row should be relatively safe. And they immediately head into the battle phase. Our draw, and there it is, Chaos Femme. Activate the effect, and we really want a low level, but unfortunately we mill our negate attack in the process. Reset runner, though, is at least going to be something. Let's use the effect. We want as many cards in the graveyard as possible for our Attitude Hydron to go in. Mill and draw. Alright, another low level is perfect. Activate the effect one more time. Mill and draw. Slime is perfect here. Let's go ahead and Ragnarok on their monsters. We can return Yggdrago to the top of the deck and provide 2 debuffs. Enter the battle phase and swing over the first one. And that was already over 2,000 damage. With this, we turn the game around. 2,400 and 3,400 for a total of 5,800 damage in just one turn. The danger of not running any piercing cards in your deck. All you have to do is set repeatedly. And that is actually something I was running into as an issue with the Cyberse deck itself. Obviously, we are able to find Yggdrago. But other than that, something like a machine player could frequently set a bunch of cards and then just draw into Sword and Shield and end the game. Alright, and it looks like we are up in the mirror. We have the Chaos Femtron, but I don't think we are going to set it just yet. As given the opportunity, we definitely want to be using the effect, as this is easily the best low-level monster in our deck. Particle acceleration, not a big deal, as we're just trading the same card. But they are going to be able to get their own back row. And if that is negate attack, we could be in trouble. They somehow managed to hit the 2 1500s and dodged the Yggdrago piece I didn't really want on board. And we have, once again, whiffed our bosses. So, I could risk it with a Chaos Femtron. And that is funny. So we are going to be doing so immediately. Chaos Femtron, and we add Head of Yggdrago to hand. Then, flip, summon, set, and skill. This is going to let us return this at the bottom of the deck, and then summon out our head and debuff the Dark Femtron at the same time. To be clear, I do think the set was maybe a better play. Though, with Maximum Ragnarok, we are guaranteed to be able to get a double debuff, even if we whiff on the boss. And their face down does not appear to be a trap. If it was a Ghost Cyclone, we already would have known, but this means it is going to be Recital. Welcome, SG. Alright, they use the Recital to protect whatever their face down is. But with the buffered slime, we shouldn't be dying. But we did play around the Recital. We dealt as much damage as possible. We swung with our 2 high attack monsters into their 2 high attack monsters. Oh, you're saying I could have used the Yggdrago last. Okay. We will see if it ends up mattering. Also, I would rather get the Recital out of the way early, rather than leave it for a turn where we need an Attitude Hydron to actually clear through something. I think letting them make the mistake of activating it in the first place is totally fine. You could argue we have a Ghost Cyclone to destroy it, but I'd rather go for the damage anyway. As we'd rather hit something like Negate Attack. Yeah, I can definitely see the argument. But I will simply draw fine. Or not. Well, Chaos Femtron is a decent start anyway. Edit the effect and add, I suppose just a low level. Then set, Yggdrago, effect, bottom of the deck, 1 and 2. Tribute summon, and do it again, and draw a card. Throw this face down. And we battle. They are already down at 2 particle accelerations, and we have Negate Attack, so we are going to go for damage here. And see if it works out. Yeah, the hand was fine, but it's not as fun as drawing multiple Chaos Femtrons and multiple bosses. I drew 2 back removal when we really don't need any right now. And they are bringing in a legendary triple boss board. But if they do so, that means no back removal. And then we win on the next turn, presumably. This Yggdrago is only going to be a 1200 attack point monster. So it's already 1300 damage before Attitude even uses its effect. And they did not have enough monsters in the graveyard to draw. So this is game. artifact, and that's actually 1700 exactly. No other action required. On to game number 3, and our first opportunity to rank up into Gold 3. And here is presumably our first machine opponent, though it could also be Magnum Overlord. Alright, and we open with a negate attack and set 3. However, as Paco has mentioned, the odds of a Ghost Cyclone or a Barrage are relatively high, with up to 5 to 6 copies of backward removal. You are more likely to draw one than not. And we even have the Boltricorn here, allowing them to delay for another turn. Congrats on the placement, JD. I think that is still a pretty reasonable goal. Top 100 in the country is nice. And my opponent opens with a Mirror Innovator, though we aren't going to be able to use the negate attack as the Boltricorn turned it off. Our move, and we draw into several boss monsters. I think we summon Yggdrago here. Tribute summon. Connector Dog. Flip. Activate skill. Return to the top of the deck. And debuff. Then we bring in a secondary boss monster, and then we will use Attitude Hydron's effect. We aren't going to be able to draw a card, but this will maximize the number of Cyberse monsters in the graveyard. And even with a recital here, we clear with Yggdrago. Looks like they have a buffered slime face down. Which is good to know. We'll be able to swing in with Yggdrago for a little bit of damage before they're able to activate the trap card. Welcome, Frank. So, if they don't actually have access to a removal card, negate attack is going to go pretty hard here. I am their own Mirror Innovator, buffed to above 5,000 attack, attempting to swing in over the Connector Dog for a game. Fortunately, we have the negate. And now, this is our move. Let us see. So, the thing is, we know they have the buffered slime. Can we draw cards here? 3, 5, 6, 7, 8. I missed a Yggdrago piece there. I could have summoned out the maximum, for sure. But, whatever. battle, get the 400. Oh, and they have another trap. Alright, that is unfortunate. But nothing we can do about it. And we see a Barrel Dragon, which would potentially lead to a lethal line if they are able to get out a Bicorn. A second Bicorn. Or maybe they just have it anyway. 1600, and then all of the boosts from the Mirror Innovator. We drew the other attribute. However, we still haven't drawn any of our money to recycle or actually get in for the lethal push. And we know they have a buffered slime in the middle, but that is no problem as we are able to just snipe it, and we already know the negate attack is out of the way. So let's stop messing around and just go kill them. Somehow we whiffed. Which I suppose is fine. Ragnarok is going to debuff both of their monsters, and then we're going to kill them. Alright, and there we have it. Gold rank 3 on a simple 3-win streak. I'm not really sure if they could have done anything differently or not. But I will say matches feel a lot simpler than they did playing in the qualifiers. Alright, they are up first, and they are actually not on Ragnarok. Paco, that is a great question. I don't think, well, actually, did we have any back row in that final turn? It's probably one of those two sets were. So, Frank, I still like Beyond Curiosity a little bit more as a deck. I think it is just more fun to play. But Ragnarok is definitely the stronger version. Welcome, Chris. I would say we are very likely to be getting a ban list soon. And there's also a new box coming out at the end of the month. If you are trying to get into ranked right away, maybe the box with extra spice in it would be a good starting point. So they could be running counter pigeons. And I want to lose a connector dog if that is the case. And then I can give up 500 damage to go through a recital. But I am not going to. And I will deal the 500. But overall, I'd say if you aren't in a huge rush, waiting until the next box comes out is probably a solid idea, as the meta could shift significantly. And we see a second back row. Harpy's easily going to clear out 2 of my monsters here and get in for a little bit of damage, but I'm still not sure it'll be enough to actually take the lead back. And we are going to be left with a monster on board as well. And remove, and we draw a ton of high-level monsters. But with the power of Maximum Ragnarok and Chaos Femtron, this may not be an issue. Also, I want to point out, we milled Negate Attack again. Reset Runner is going to mill another card, presumably a monster this time, but I suppose not. We have only 3 monsters in the graveyard, due to some bad luck here. And that means no card draws coming our way. We can bring in 2 Attitude Hydron. And that seems reasonable. But I kind of like going for the debuff as well. So if we debuff one of them, that is 6. Well, actually, if we tribute all 3 monsters, we actually have a slight chance of drawing into another card. So we will Ragnarok. Return this at the top of the deck. And debuff 1, 2. And then if we mill 2 monsters, we might be able to round out the board with a 3rd guy. And we draw just a low-level Drago piece, which, I mean, is still some level of protection. And possibly a missed lethal. 600 attack, but they have 700 left. Not a mistake. Alright, opponent surrenders, and we move on to the next game. Yeah, I could have put something like the Attitude Hydron on top of the deck before using the Femtron, but I definitely wanted to just look for a low level instead. The reason I wouldn't recommend going into 7's new road is that Dragia's has been reprinted a couple of times, or at least the one time with the alt art. And 7's Magician has its own alt art as well, and it's probably going to be reprinted anytime they want to promote the rest of the 7's group. So I feel like going into a main box when so many minis exist is a bit of a tough sell. I'm gonna bring in the Mani here. Force my opponent to have drawn a boss monster of their own in order to out this. Throw slime down and pass. Alright, and it looks like they do have a boss, or at least are going to be able to remove our back row. Roman pick, 500 lower, and they can grab a piece holder. Also, they are taking Siesta Torero, presumably for this matchup specifically. And we take a little bit of damage. Notably, this is less than we would have taken had we just set the 2 monsters. Chaos Femtron. And we look for the head of Yggdrago. But we whiff it. So I guess we are just going to be setting instead. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Activate Ragnarok and debuff one of their monsters. At least we'll be able to get in for a bit. And pass it over. We have also lost our negate attack, and they're on amped up rather than the more traditional ready beat. Alright, Check is unfortunately going to be destroying our slime immediately. Yeah, Chris, I agree completely with that. Alright, Essel gonna get those extra resources in the graveyard for the opponent. Helping provide value. Whenever they go for the second Roman pick. Divergence, once again, returning our acceleration to the top of the deck. So, we are going to be continuing to brick a little here. Our move, and 3 back row. Not looking like a great start. Obviously, we do have our Femtron available to us. So I think we need to see what we get with this, as we could always just maximum summon. But all we find is a reset runner. So instead, I'm pretty sure we need to grab this Mani. And we can ditch the Cyclone. We know negate attack is down, so the acceleration is not that important, but it could always be something like shield and sword that would cause issues later. So maybe we set runner anyway. And then effect. Activate skill. And return this to the bottom. 1 and 2. Tribute summon. Acceleration. And it was indeed shield and sword. And we are just putting the 2 Femtrons back in the deck. And we'll do another debuff on the Re-D. Swing in. And swing in. I don't know if we just lose to them using the skill here. But whatever. I'm definitely not playing my best. Somehow the Roman pick whiffed. But they are still going to be able to bring in a Prima Guitarna plus a Esperade. But yeah, and then they go down to 700, pop one of the monsters, swing over the Chaos Femtron, and then attack directly for 2500. So that is game. Wait, they chose to gain life points. Oh, they drew another non-low-level monster. So they weren't able to use their effect. And this is game for us. Reset runner, activate skill, and go for a debuff. Yggdrago, top of the deck, 1 and 2. And that'll do it. Yeah, notably the Toreros did not help them get over my boards, and instead it just helped turn off their Oman picks. Not a great showing. And we are now on another rank up. Yeah, congratulations to Paco for qualifying. I do think the inclusion of the recitals in their deck was the right play. And it might be why I wasn't able to get my way into the same position as them. I'm just currently running the same list I was using back then. But I think I was losing my games to Sword and Shield and to generally getting my board outed. And the recitals would help a lot with that. Especially since this is a deck that, unlike a lot of the other ones in the game, actually tends to summon out a boss monster turn 1, rather than just set 3 monsters. Or at least it does it a little bit more often than other decks in the format. So being able to bring in the boss monster and a recital would help. For sure. Alright, and we are going to lose our rank up game with the swiftness. Frank, I was playing this list that I am currently using. Now, I am pretty sure they do have a trap card here. So, this will be a swift loss for us, for sure. And just to rub salt in the wound, we are even going to mail our negate attack. I played Machines for the first 75 games. And after that, I was on Cyberse for the vast majority of the event. I thought the Machines were not doing as well as I would want them to. I was actually surprised to see so many people, winning with them. I thought between the Cyberse and the Noodles and the Royal, well, maybe not the Royal Rebels, I thought the Machine decks were not going to be the #1 deck. I thought Cyberse was going to win the event. Which is why I was playing it instead of Machines. Alright, somehow the opponent did not draw any boss monsters. But we don't have any left pieces of Yggdrago in the graveyard. Otherwise, we could use Mani and then swing in with Yggdrago for game. Very interesting. Alright, and there it is, the left piece of Yggdrago. Let's go ahead and activate Mani. And return 2 monsters into the deck. Debuff Crafter Drone. Activate Reincarnation. Send Connector Dog. Grab Yggdrago. Now, we are probably going to just get negate attacked here. But we are doing what we can. Activate the skill. Ragnarok. Return this to the top of the deck. And debuff that Crafter Drone. And we might as well debuff the Wolf as well. Then attempt to swing in for 4,000 damage. And it works. We win after a 100 life points. for several turns. All the deck needs is for the opponent to whiff one time. And the comeback is immense. I think notably, even if we didn't summon out the Yggdrago, we would have been dealing pretty significant damage, as we had 2 Attitude Hydrons, and the opponent would have been stuck with 2 low-level monsters that we would be debuffing with the Ragnarok. So I'm pretty sure we had game anyway. And we are up against, I'm going to go ahead and assume it is no longer Noodles because we are done with the qualifiers. So this is going to be an opponent on Harpies. So maybe I should have summoned this Yggdrago. But I am instead going to end turn. I'm definitely playing very fast and very loose. But I think it is fine. Like I said, it is gold 5 players. Yeah, Paco, that is exactly it. And then Noodles, I think, is the 3rd most popular deck. And like I was talking about in the meta chat, I just really hated, so day 3, I actually switched back to machines. And my second game was Noodles, and I landed all 3 Combustion Crisis. And I went right back to the Cyberse right after that. Unfortunately, I did have a run near the end of the event that put me up to 39,000. And if I had stopped there, I would have gotten top 100. But I ended up I kept playing and then ended up falling to 33,000. It would have been nice to at least get bronze medal. And another icon. We are against Thunder. And it looks like I should have brought in the Yggdrago as they have no boss monster available to us. However, this is still fine. We take 1,500. And then we Cyclone and get to draw a card. Cyclone, pop, and draw. Alright, Attitude Hydron is a decent card, but we've drawn 4 high-level monsters. We are going to be sending this Yggdrago to the top of the deck, so we can get rid of it with the Attitude Hydron. Debuff 1 and debuff 2. Normal summon out Hydron. And mill. Set a card and swing in over the Platypus. And obviously we are in a pretty bad spot. I suppose I should have summoned out that boss monster. Yeah, it wasn't that I wasn't able to get early aggression. It's just that they had all of the trap cards. So it didn't actually matter. I will say, it was still a somewhat close match. Even though I got hit by 3 Combustion Crisis. So I can see it being still an even matchup, as I know I did get high rolled there. It is kind of silly to think about it, though. From 33,000 to go to 43,000 is actually only going to require me to have turned 5 of my losses across nearly 300 games into wins. And I am sure I misplayed at least 5 times over the course of the event. So it's entirely possible, had I been a better player, I would have qualified. This is definitely game. Taking our first loss of the night to a deck not even on the tier list. But honestly, it might not be the worst tech in the world here. In a meta where Cyberse and Noodles are two of the top decks, getting in for that piercing damage against those zero defense bosses does see some merit. I probably would have voted this higher than Harpies and Seven's Axel Road, but Colossalus removed them from the list. I think I accidentally voted to remove it when I only wanted to take off the one deck. Which I don't even remember what it was. I mean, at the end of the voting, I did want to remove Harpies and Seven's Axel. But I think Kloss put them on there anyway. Alright, we are up against some kind of Boogie Master deck. It is... I was gonna say it was Blue Eyes, but I'm pretty sure you need 1700 defense to do that. We are gonna go for the funny here and not use our negate attack. We will save it for next turn. It is very obviously a better play to go ahead and set that card face down and get rid of one of the connector dogs. But this method is gonna go in hard and fast. And we will simply kill them next turn. Let us see what Atem wants to do about it. Starting off with a solid set. Are they going to tribute summon, or do they just not have anything? Torvero going to clear out the Attribute Hydron. But if they don't tribute summon, then we really don't care. Our Hydron goes down, but now we are drawing the negate attack next turn. And even without any boss monsters of our own, we can go ahead, Particle Acceleration, set the slime, and start swinging. Activate skill, Yggdrago to the bottom. Debuff Torvero, and go for it. If they are playing Aqua, most of these monsters should have relatively low defense stats. And they do. Alright, and they are on Advanced Burst Draw to guarantee they find the Blue Eyes here. But are they going to be able to bring in a Bright Dragon alongside it? Or, the better question is, are they going to have a Dragon's Inferno? They do. But they lose the 50-50. Honestly, this is not even a particularly strong negate attack. There's a chance we whiff a boss monster. If I was taking it more seriously, I would consider not activating it here. But we are simply superior gamers, so let us reset runner. Mill a card, Attitude Hydron, mill 2, Dark Femtron, Bell Spectacle, that is... Oh, and they concede. Yeah, on turn 1... I do set the negate attack for sure. Unfortunately, it is going to get popped more often than not, given the 5 to 6 spell trap removal that the machine players are running. But if you do manage to get it to resolve, it is just so powerful. I was in a Discord server the other night where people were trying to tell us that flipping a gate attack does not end the game. But I feel like in 80% of the cases, if you flip a gate attack and the opponent does not have theirs, you just instantly win. I would like Quantum and Poggo's opinion on this. Basically, the argument would be that negate attack doesn't actually destroy any monsters. The opponent still theoretically needs to draw the out to your own board, etc. My argument was that if they are activating an attack, most of the time they already have a card like Mirror Innovator or X Spice on the board that they are trying to protect, and they will just kill you. Speaking of negate attack, there goes the first one. Then Reset Runner. Femtron, let's just grab the left piece and Maximum. We whiff. Not a huge deal. Activate Ragnarok. Return to the top of the deck. And, I think it's honestly more damage if I debuff this. For sure it is. Okay. Summon out Mani. Or do we just save the Mani since we don't even need it? I think that does make some amount of sense. Let's Yggdrago and then just clear the board this way. And now we'll be able to use the Mani to recycle our Femtron, rather than shuffling back the less important 1500s. Alright, 2 low-level monsters of their own. 2 bosses, and they are set with a Maximum Ragnarok. Or even a lone boss, a 1500, would be good enough to clear through this. Send one back, tribute summon a 15, clear out the board, deal an extra 1000 with the Reset Runner. Let us see what they go for. Alright, and they're actually debuffing the Chaos Femtron, which works as well, as now Reset Runner is able to clear out the Femtron, and their final card could even be a back row, instead of needing to be that 1500. Alright, and we draw all 3 pieces of Yggdrago. We are simply superior gamers. Alright, skill and Femtron back on top. Okay, actually that is something I basically said as well, Paco. That there are some players who will flip the negate attack right away and kind of use it poorly, but most of the time, if you are activating it, it's because you are about to win the game with all the advantage you get from keeping your entire board. And I'm getting to draw a new hand and kind of just completely overwhelm the opponent. They never responded when I actually made my arguments, but I responded a few hours later, and they were basically clowning on someone else for having the same opinion as me. But I think they did make a pretty poor argument for it when they were trying to explain it. Like, they were saying that Rush forces you to be super offensive and there's no room for control strategies, when Noodles obviously exist and are pretty good. And then they were trying to compare Recital as the same tier as Negate Attack, which understandably is not true. But I think they were a little bit too mean to them. And we're really downplaying how much impact a negative attack can have. I think, they are primarily known for playing the physical rush game, where obviously we have Mirror Force. And sure, I think something like Mirror Force or Magic Cylinder, no, they are actually quite good rush players, which is why I was so confused. So I will give them the benefit of the doubt that it is simply that the negative attack doesn't compare to Cylinder. Which might be fair. Like, Cylinder does literally instantly win you the game when they are sitting in with their 4,000 attack point monster. Anyway, it looks like they are going to be outing this Yggdrago here. But we do have a Mani. So as long as we are alive, all we need to do is draw a single low-level monster. And we already know we have a Chaos Temptron on top of the deck. So we don't even really need to do anything. Activate Ragnarok. Return to the top of the deck. Debuff, debuff. Normal summon, and swing. I am not really sure why they left. Oh, did they need it to leave the reset runner on the board in order to use the money to debuff me enough? Because if so, that is unfortunate for them. Quantum, I do agree with that, especially in the Cyberse mirror. I had a very good win rate in that matchup specifically. Because I think a lot of the opponents were not realizing that you're allowed to just set 3 monsters and wait a turn to draw your Chaos Temptron and your Attitude Hydron. Unless a Dragon comes down, you're not really in that much danger. Obviously, summoning out a big board of 3 Mani and Hydron is going to be very tough to deal with. But if you just wait it out, instead of just summoning out a weak substandard board and then dying on the next turn, you are usually going to be in a decent position. And we are able to rank up once again if we manage to take a win. Unfortunately, we are not going first, but we do have a negate attack. So we are going to see whether or not they draw the particle acceleration. They have one back row. Ghost Cyclone is the optimal draw, but I will take a copy of this as well. So, small trick, I'm sure the experienced players already know about here, is we are going to be returning the Dark Femtron to the bottom. And then we're going to choose both of these monsters. As we are playing against Nail, we are guaranteed to know they have no monsters with over 100 defense. So even if this Chaos Temptron whiffs on a boss, we are still able to attack with it, and the debuff is absolutely the right play. Unfortunately, we do whiff, and it looks like they even have a trap card face down. However, they are not going to be able to use Ghost Cyclone on the next turn if they draw it. So we are forcing them into a position where they need a particle acceleration in order to stop our negate attack. And if they don't have it, we are going to be in a very strong position. Though, of course, they are about a third of the way through the deck, and they run 2 to 3 particle accelerations. So there is a good chance of it. Welcome, Sean. How are you doing? Alright, and our opponent is going to be bringing in a double boss board. And the issue here, we know they have a trap card. If we flip our negate attack before they do, we are suddenly in a pretty bad spot. if they respond with a negative attack of their own. Still, I think we kind of need to do it and simply hope we draw an acceleration or that their face down is active buffered slime instead. Alright, and we draw acceleration. We are simply superior gamers. Let's go ahead and accelerate, destroying their negative attack, and then we double Chaos Femtron to build up some boss monsters. Chaos Femtron, Chaos Femtron. Looks like we are only getting a Drago piece here. But if we tribute summon, Connected Dog set, we actually don't need the extra monster. So we will not be adding anything to our hand. Go ahead, 1 and 2. Connector Dog, set. Ragnarok returns the reset runner to the deck. I actually probably should have done this after the Monies. As, we want to put the reset runner on the bottom, guaranteed, rather than having it shuffled in with the rest of our cards. Let's go ahead and put the 2 Chaos Fems back into the deck and debuff this one so our Connected Dog is able to clear. Then we activate the second Money, and we can debuff whatever we want. I think we have already seen a monster reincarnation, so on the off chance we draw into Drago, we're going to return the 2 pieces, and this is also better than returning 1500 attack point monsters because they are actual targets for our Chaos Femtron. End of the battle phase, and we swing over the entire board. We activated the attack, we destroyed theirs, and now we are in a pretty dominant looking position. But the game is not over just yet. Chaos Femtron could turn this around. So, Paco, how are you playing against machines? I found I was winning significantly more often when I went second. I think just between the Essels, the Ghost Cyclones, and the Mirror Innovators, there was just so much going on where setting 3 and passing, or even just summoning a lone boss monster, was not working out for me. Alright, they unfortunately are going to be able to clear our buffered slime, but that is not nearly as important as us clearing their negative attack. Also, they concede immediately as they did not use Ragnarok on the correct targets. And we are now in gold 5. While we have had a 5-game win streak earlier in the stream, doing it again could be difficult. This is the hardest part of the push. And they are on Harpy, apparently. Activate Ragnarok. We will send the Connector Dog over to the bottom, as we don't really care about it. We'll bring in the Attitude and try to clear over there to presumably, 1400 or lower defense monsters. Okay. Poker says, the recitals that help. I really wish you would have shared your list with me when I asked, as the recitals, I think, would have made a huge impact. But I totally understand that you didn't want to, because you didn't want me to be going up the ranks like that. Yeah, I will say, I still think the Barrel Dragon was more popular than the Cybertech Alligator, though. The coin flips are just too powerful. But yeah, I definitely played as aggressively as I could against them. Barring, you know, maybe the exact first turn. We didn't draw any bosses, but we have an attitude in the graveyard, so we can reincarnation. I think that is fine. Acceleration. This is the only one that could be a threat. Ditch the Drago piece. Grab the Hydron. Reset runner. Mill. Just get rid of the slime. 1, 2. And we'll see how it goes. Attitude, effect, activate, and start swinging. Alright, pass it over and we'll see what they do. I will say, I think that is probably what made me not top this time. Was that I did not do as much deck editing. I probably should have either added in a third recital, or sorry, a third particle acceleration instead of doing my 2-2 split, or really thinking about why the shield and swords were killing me so much, and added another couple of traps. It is absolutely a adjustment I was smart enough to be able to deduce, and I just didn't do it, which is entirely my fault. Let us ditch the Cyclone here. And then, do we want to bring in both Monis or just the one? I'm a little bit afraid of counter pigeons, but we have so much debuff power that it is actually fine here. So, let's bring in the 2 monsters. Activate the effect. Unfortunately, we are going to be shuffling those cards from the bottom of our deck back around, but adding in 2 Attitude Hydrons into the deck is definitely worth it. I'll go ahead and do the other one as well. And we have used the reincarnation, so I'll go ahead and put in those pieces. And they actually just concede really prematurely. No, Paco, I actually wanted the list, so I could see if there was anything I was missing. And there was. I was low on sleep and kind of busy. I played a lot of games while distracted that weekend. If I think about it, I really should have aimed for third. And so when I got the 39,000. As third place would still mean I was theoretically a substitute, and it's still the highest placement I can get without being forced to face reveal. And name reveal. Which is honestly the bigger issue. Like, I don't want to be doxxed. I chose an avatar for a reason. Internet privacy is something I care about. And that's partially why I'm not that bummed that I didn't top 2, despite all the time and effort I put into it. Anyway, we are simply superior gamers. We have drawn 2 Ghost Cyclone. Did they use their skill? No. But it could theoretically still be a Magnum Overlord player. But I will simply not care. We are going to go ahead and activate Ragnarok. Put this on top. And then go 1. There is a chance this is the Magician's Valkyria. And 3,000 damage is a fine enough push to me. Battle phase, swing. It's a Doriado. Doriado and Recovery Force make me feel like this should be 7's Axel. And yeah, Paco, exact same thought process. Recovery Force means it should be Axel Road. And which definitely confirms it. So I theoretically missed out on 1,000 damage by being a little bit conservative here. But we will see if it makes a difference or not. We already know we have a negative attack on top of the deck. So as long as we manage, and even if we don't really draw any bosses, Ragnarok is able to debuff these low attack monsters to the point where we're going to be able to clear them anyway. Let's go ahead, summon Emperor, summon Dog. Set skill. Top 1 and 2. Effect, battle, swing. Also, Mani was probably more damaged there. But it also doesn't matter. Yeah, I can be a little bit conservative. You know, wildlife, want to conserve that. National parks, definitely. Big conservation fan. Simply going to do it. And I will actually even send the piece to the bottom of the deck so we draw better cards next turn. Bottom of the deck, debuff, and pass it over. Yeah, no problem, Paco. Also, I am pretty glad that the players who got top 2 are both members of the community and not the players like Serenity or Belfior that I had never heard of before. I think it is good that active players that are recognizable are going to be the ones who made it. I mean, Quantum is technically still relatively new to actually playing Rush, but I mean, they've been commentating the events. Well, Zeta is not, okay, first, Zeta is not a North American player, and secondly, no. I actually have no idea who anybody is. Though I think if I understood the text I was reading, is Zeta the one who has qualified in Duel Links, Master Duel, and TCG? The Triumvirate. We're gonna put this at the bottom because it's very funny if we summon a second Yggdrago. End turn, and we even have the reincarnation set up. So even if they are able to out the Yggdrago, another one comes down immediately. Alright, I'm glad to know that those are at least good speed duel players, and not just random people who were grinding. Though, I do wish the Rush scene was bigger, obviously. I think it is a shame that I am actually considered well known as a Rush streamer. My channel is way too small for that. There should be channels 20 times my size, making the same content I do. Oh, so it's the 3 digitals, not TCG. Got it. So this was a silly game. I wish my climbs in the YCQ were this enjoyable. Obviously, a 5-win streak is still a little bit of a tough ask. But we are winning much more than we're losing, so we should be able to get there sometime tonight. Unless we go through a series of extremely unfortunate events. I will say the only reason I'm a little bit disappointed I didn't do better is that I was hoping it would be able to attract more attention to Rush if content creators were the ones to win. Like, people would see the names at the top and then get into the game by checking out the channels. Like, or if Quantum Cubes had changed their name to indicate they were a streamer. That also would have been good. This is me being kind of distracted, but also kind of not wanting to end on 2 set monsters and getting hit by a 3000 attack point Hydron. Still a little bit of a risky opener, but there's always the chance they didn't draw their own boss. However, even as Maximum Ragnarok here would only debuff us to 1700, unlike the Mani, who can be cleared by a 1500. But it looks like they are going to have some amount of board clearing here. That is true. Voltalon is well known as a physical Rush player, but I don't think the average Duel Links player is going to know them. Or know to go check out more Rush content. That is fine. That is fine. Do I summon the Yggdrago or not? I think we are going to summon it, but we're going to summon it with the debuff. That way, even if they have something like Paco's Recital Attack, we'd still be able to clear. Well, actually, the Battle Spectacle is pretty good here. 900 debuff means no real reason to actually summon this Yggdrago. Battle, play around Recital. Unfortunately, they might have the negate. It is Recital. And now we can go in. Theoretically, summoning out the Yggdrago stops them from using the Recital at all. But, like I was saying earlier, I think letting them activate the Recital is better. As now it's out of the way entirely. Alright, negative attack in the grave. And they are getting the head of Yggdrago. Are they going to maximum summon, or are they simply choosing the boss monster they need in order to put out anything on the board? Presumably our Mani is being debuffed. But maybe they have a 2-boss board they are trying to establish instead. Or actually, if they have a boss, they'd probably want to debuff one of my 1500s. That way they connected up. No, they are going for the double boss. But like Paco says, if I draw the maximum here, we are going to be able to just swing over the connected dog for game. As it will have under 1,000 attack points after the debuff from Ragnarok. And their own Azure Hydron, just not barely good enough to draw a card. Alright, and they actually crash away the connected dog, which is a great play. Avoiding the lethal from a potential summon here. We are going to bring out Chaos Femtron and see what we find. Unfortunately, all we find is another Yggdrago piece, which is not all that great. But but it is good enough. So we definitely summon this. And we definitely need to debuff the Yggdrago and the Attribute. So I think we go like this, and then we do a regular tribute summon. Return this to the bottom. Debuff the 2 of those. That's only 300, 600 damage. We are going to set the reset runner. Battle and get in for what we can. With 3900, we should be relatively safe from their own copy of a maximum summon. But we are still at danger of a big, Chaos Femtron plussing a bunch type of turn. Welcome, Sora. Hope you're doing alright. And here we go, the immediate Chaos Femtron into the Mani. So the question is whether or not they're going to be able to do enough damage to kill us. But if they're using Ragnarok this early, I don't think it's going to be the case. As lethal lines would typically involve lowering my own monsters. But they had the Femtron and the Attribute. I think it is possible they are not very experienced with the deck. I feel like they definitely could have afforded at least one debuff here. But of course, we are still losing our board. And they have a face down. And we haven't seen the slime. So we might not be able to kill them. And we might die on the next turn. We only have 1 acceleration left in the deck. And this is a pretty respectable board. I just think it could have been even more threatening. As you can see, we only have 800 life points left. So had they just gone for a debuff on our side, they would have been able to win. So we now need to somehow get in here with Attribute Hydrons. Our chances of drawing a headpiece are pretty low. So is there a way we can win with the attributes? I mean, each of them is a pretty significant buff. So I think we just need to mill as much as possible. Summon out a monster, then Attribute Hydron, and see what we draw. And we're looking for just a low level monster we're able to use to bring out our second Hydron. Draw a card, reset runner, activate effect, another piece, tribute off these 2. Activate effect, draw a card. Unfortunately, we lose the negate attack here. And then we Ragnarok. We are going to put the headpiece on the bottom, debuff both of their monsters, set the Cyclone, and as long as that face down card is not buffered slime, this would be enough to win. But they have a trap set. So unfortunately for us, we are probably going to be losing this one. They really don't need anything special to win the game here. Milling negate attack, instead of drawing into it, was a 50-50. Well, it was less than that to actually get the negate attack in the first place. Welcome, Funny. So we see the Hydron, and we can go ahead and scoop it up. Unfortunately for us, we were on quite a win streak. So our progress towards King of Games completely reset here. We are up first. And we have a pretty interesting hand. I think we are going to Chaos Femtron, activate our Ragnarok, and we return this one to the top of the deck. Returning the Yggdrago here is important, as it means we actually have a chance to find an even better target. Whereas if we mill the Attitude knowing we can add it back, there's no chance to add this Money, as we are forced to grab the Attitude instead. But now we get an even better opening board. We've already have the negative attack in hand, so I feel more confident in using the turn 1 Attitude to safely set up our board. Our opponent is on an archive skill. It could be our very first Noodle opponent. But could also just be another Harpy player. Or even Blue Eyes. And it looks like it is some sort of Blue Eyes variant. They bring in a Torn of the Windweaver and discard a Hammer Crush. Could be a dangerous decision. Summoning out a Dragorite. Not sure why you wouldn't set it here. But they have the Inferno. Unfortunately, we're not going to be able to keep our Attitude Hydron alive. And just kind of walk over our opponent. But this is still pretty good for us. Let's go ahead and reset Runner. Mill a card. Summon out the Yggdrago piece. And that is 7. 8 and 9 Cyberse monsters in the graveyard. Maximum Ragnarok returns this to the top of the deck and provides a double debuff. Then we get to mill with the Attitude Hydron and draw into a card. And it is a 1500 Connector Dog, allowing us to completely debuff the Torn of the Windweaver while also setting 2 Femtrons back into the deck. Torna goes to 0. And now it is battle phase. And that is a turn 3 victory. No idea why that Dragorite was in attack mode. And we have opened slightly suboptimally. I think we're gonna keep these Cyclones because it is funnier. And if we're playing against machines, I really don't want that Mirror Innovator dealing full damage. So we're gonna go ahead and ditch this. And bring in our Yggdrago. At the minimum, there is a small chance they won't draw into a boss here. And it looks like we're actually against a Magnum Overlord player rather than Ultimate Bond. All we can really hope for is that they have a lot of juicy targets for our Cyclone. And we see a Witch, which is pretty rare. And they are going pretty aggressive here. I feel like Witch and Magician is probably a lot better than getting to activate your Barrage of Steel right away. I do not agree with their decision. But our turn is relatively straightforward after playing several hundred games over the weekend. We are going to set up the reset runner, mill with the Attitude, and swing in, protected by our negate attack. Odds of them drawing into the maximum this early are pretty low, especially since they got rid of one of their extra green pieces for not a whole ton of benefit. Unfortunately, they do have it, but are they going to have another barrage of steel to go alongside it? As if not, we are going to be able to easily debuff this card and then swing in on the next turn. Out of the effect, and the game is over. They have no back row. Ragnarok sends this back to the top, debuffs these two, and then we have 2 money to even further debuff it. Not that we need to. Under the effect of Attribute Hydron, draw a card, and then battle phase, swing in. That is concede. Welcome, Benext. Hope you're having a good day. Alright, we are up first. And we have a bunch of random Yggdrago pieces. There is no thought required here. All we're gonna do is set 5 and hope this is not Mirror Innovators and Barrel Dragons coming down to ruin the day. Mystic Dealer. Probably not a machine deck. Torn of the Windweaver. Probably, well, it could still be either. But 7's Axel Road is the vibe. And there it is, up to 2400. Torna flips. And we probably aren't even going to be able to use the Ghost Cyclone as they only have 2 monsters on the board. But they don't have any back row for our cards to target anyway. Notably, they discarded a Cyberse Magician for Torna. And the other card in their hand is almost assuredly going to be a second copy. We draw an Yggdrago head at the cost of Buffered Slime. I am fine with that. Connector Dog. Set this. Skill. We do not care about the maximum summons. So it goes to the bottom of the deck, and we get to debuff 2 of their monsters. Then Moni. So I guess it doesn't really matter that we send it to the bottom, as it is getting shuffled anyway. And now we battle with a full back row, but nothing to actually protect us. But they are down to 1600, so if they don't kill us this turn, we are in a pretty solid position. Cyberse is a fair and balanced deck. I did notice I was the only player to actually rate it above the machine deck. But I do think the Cyberse deck in a vacuum is actually stronger. Obviously, as the meta develops, players are probably going to start running more Sword and Shield. And maybe that means the machines do overtake it due to their general consistency. But in a pure vacuum, I feel like the Cyberse deck does more unfair things. And that's pretty ridiculous, considering the machine deck has Essel. When I switched to Cyberse on day 2, I ran into 3 Ultimate Bonds in a row and went 3-0 because at the time people still weren't running the Shield and Sword. And it was just incredibly easy to climb up with it. But now players are trying to tech against it with stuff like Sieta Torero. And the Legend spell. Still no spell trap removal targets here. But we have drawn some solid monsters. And we bring in the Attribute Hydron. And they concede. I had not even calculated if it was lethal yet. But I'm glad they did it for me. I was probably gonna go grab the Chaos Femtron with the Monster Reincarnation and then bring in another boss. But I might have just been able to activate the debuff and then win that way. Had not done the math. Alright, we are going second. But we do have 2 Cyclones. Are we going to be able to get value? Or are we going to have an awful opening hand where we can't do much of anything? They are to be summoning a Harpy in attack mode. A little bit bold, but with a second copy, it makes some sense. And there we go. 1 back row to help us fix our hand. Go Cyclone, drawing a card. And there it is, another low-level monster. Reset runner, activate the effect, and send a Chaos Femtron. That is good enough for me. We can put back this Yggdrago piece, but I'd rather dig the extra card deeper to try to find another boss monster. And we do just that. Go ahead and summon in this Yggdrago piece, and we're going to send the Ghost Cyclone to the bottom of the deck, as they are not going to be able to out this board. Send to the bottom, debuff our 2 monsters. Summon out Attribute Hydron number 1. And then summon Attribute Hydron number 2. You could argue actually we wanted to mill the Ghost Cyclone with the Hydron just so we never actually draw it. But I think this is a reasonable play as well, as it means we are able to hit the actual boosts more consistently. And now our graveyard is set up with 6 Cyberse monsters. And the opponent concedes. Alright, Paco, thank you so much for joining. Our stream hopefully is coming to an end soon as well. We are going to play until we hit King of Games. And we are on a 4-win streak. So this might be the final game. Here is our first chance to hit King of Games. Or maybe the second. I'm not really sure if our first loss was after a 3 or a 4 win streak. And we are rematching Umenda Jr., who I think is on Summons Axel Road. Or, no, I knew it wasn't Machines. That's all I remembered. But we have fought them before. And interesting opening hand. Not ideal for going second and trying to get into King of Games here. But maybe we will be able to find something that helps. Maybe we'll be able to play it slow a little bit. And just kind of see what happens. I'm okay with that. Our opponent, of course, getting 9 cards here. And that can always lead to some pretty scary boards. Especially if they are on Harpies. And I'm going to start flipping up my monsters. And inflicting a ton of damage to me. At this point, I think the Buffered Slime should not be activated. As we're going to wait for when they would be dealing significantly more damage. I actually have not seen the top 100 Ice Arc list. I saw it listed as Warriors, and I didn't know if it was Ice Arc or Celerity. Celerity obviously does pretty poorly into Machines. as Amigo is going to be able to just kind of ruin your day. But Noodles and Cyberse both do a lot of traditional tribute summoning, so I could have seen Celerity as a rogue pick, as it should do okay into 2 of the 3 popular matchups. And we have a Ghost Cyclone, and exactly 3 monsters in the graveyard, so let's get started on that. Cyclone, pop a Counter Pigeon's not a huge deal. We have a monster reincarnation and a left side, so we are going to be doing that. Reset Runner, grab left. Welcome Boltalon. Let's bring in Yggdrago, activate the effect to pop one of their monsters. Set this face down, turn on our trigger, send the Femtron to the bottom of the deck, debuff their 2 monsters, and then I think we want to swing in for over 3,000 if we get the opportunity. So we are going to swing into the Faith Bird. And it looks like they might even have another Counter Pigeons, or the Nade Attack, or the Buffered Slime ready. Well, it is not the Buffered Slime, but they might have a Counter Pigeons or a Nade Attack. But with over 3,000 damage, this deck, without a Talismanic Seal Ray or a Pet Dragon, should have a tough time clearing Yggdrago. And needing all of that in addition to a way to deal with my trap cards should be enough for us to get to the end of the game. Also, they are running the barrier 3 months too late. Even a buffed Harpy Lady Sisters is only 3,100. But here comes the Seal Array that they were hiding face down. Notably, this does mean the card over on the left is a trap, as we did see the Hourglass activating on the previous attack. So if we draw a Particle Acceleration, we will just swing in towards it. And they have perfected the minimum summon. Yeah, Paco, I think at the end of the day, this probably just hadn't played in the qualifiers. I think that's the only reason that could have happened. But anyway, here we go. Activate skill, send this connector dog away. And debuff a couple of the monsters. Activate the effect of Yggdrago for funsies. And I'll destroy this one. Enter battle and swing. We know they still have a trap card set, but I think it is much more likely to be a barrier or counter pigeons than the negate attack. We deal a little bit of damage, and they are down to 1k. Are they going to be able to find an actual out to this Yggdrago? 1 Talismanic Seal Array, already down. 2 Yggdrago pieces in our hand. 2 Chaos Femtrons, available to us. And they start with 2 Hammer Crushes, removing the slime. Very interesting. But if that is all they've got, it is not going to be enough. And switching a monster to defense mode is, of course, useless in the face of Yggdrago. By milling 3, we switch a monster right into attack mode. And we finish this game. And that is actually the end of our climb to King of Games. Voltalon, I know you joined a little bit late, so if there's anything you wanted to talk about before we wrap up, I'm definitely interested in hearing your thoughts on your World Championship climb, thoughts on the meta, on Cyberse, etc. Always value the chance to talk to you. I'd also really like to get Voltalon's opinion on negate attack, as since you are good at both physical rush and the Duel Links rush, I want to know what your opinion is on the negate attack debate that was happening over in Witchin, as you're probably the only person I really trust to have a good understanding of where both sides were coming from. Yeah, and we climbed from Ivy with Supe. It was about a 2-hour climb. A little bit under that. Yeah, Volt, no problem. But absolutely, definitely very interested in your opinion. I'm gonna see if anyone is playing Rush over on Twitch. I don't think so. But basically my understanding of the situation is that Ian made some pretty bad points, but then I think got a little bit too clowned on. Like, I think the negate attack was definitely undervalued in the context of Duel Links by the community there. But then nobody really responded after I made my argument. So I wasn't able to actually get input on why people would disagree, or if there was more nuance to the situation that I hadn't been considering. So I guess argument isn't the right word, as I'm not trying to argue with them. I'm trying to, like, figure out more of where they were coming from and see what they were thinking as well. So it doesn't look like anybody on Twitch playing Rush. So I suppose we will wrap up with a couple of speed duel games. It looks like it is reset time. So we are gonna get the gems from running 4 Blue Eyes games before we call it a day. Yeah, I mean, I know I personally feel pretty bad when the negate attack activates, because it means my board is, like, I think most of the time when it is activated, there's already a card on the opponent's field that is going to completely, like, destroy my own board going into the next turn. Unless I draw my own negate attack. Alright, we are up first, but we don't actually draw any monsters here. I mean, we can bingo machine and grab just a vanilla, I guess. And that'll let us activate our skill. But we're not going to really be able to ultimate fusion anything either. So maybe I should have gotten the effect one, so the successor soul would have been online. But we also do have a crackdown available, so that's not too bad either. As we can crack down and then use the successor soul afterwards. Alright, they are running not a particularly impressive deck, as far as I can tell. But my back row is pretty clogged up, and if they don't bring out any monsters, or we don't draw an effect monster, not really sure how we're going to be able to actually clear through this without just kind of waiting around. Alright, we see a Time Lord. Can't be special summoned from the deck. Cannot be destroyed by battle. But it can be targeted. So we are just going to crack down it, so we avoid all of the burn damage here. I think we need to use the Treacherous here. Even though it's not going to destroy the Time Lord, we need to actually clear out a zone for us to be able to summon in other things. So I know this looks weird, but we're going to see if it works or not. Oh, it didn't activate the effect, but yeah, no, that's fine, that's fine. Melody, discard, grab these two. Special summon. Normal summon. Effect for the Ding Yersu. And then we can send the Swords of Revealing Light to the graveyard. And swing in for pretty significant damage. Switch this over to defense mode. Battle phase and swing in. Welcome, Jordan. We are doing okay. Hope you're doing well as well. And yeah, Voltalon, definitely DM me whenever you post that. Very interested in hearing what you have to say. Alright, so if they summon another Time Lord here, we are going to be able to Successor Soul it. We'll go ahead, ditch this, send this, bring out our Blue Eyes, and presumably then just kind of win on the next turn. And if they draw another trap card, we would be able to Phoenix it. But Monster Reborn is able to bring back the Time Lord, which I believe shuffles away my entire field. Which is relatively strong. I do get to draw a card, but that's still not great. We'll summon the Blackluster Soldier and end turn. We kind of just have to wait for the Time Lord to go away here. Alright, Cauldron, hitting for burn, and if they draw the right Time Lord, we would actually lose there. As we're just looking for another monster. Let's go with the Dragon Spirit. And we will banish the Cauldron. What are we able to special summon? We can activate Ding Yersu again, and get rid of whatever their face down monster is. No questions asked. Send it to the graveyard and swing in for game. Oh, Penguin Soldier, a great card for us to get rid of. Oh, welcome, Ludwig. How are you doing? Oh yeah, stage 2 actually did start, didn't it? I'm not personally planning on competing, as you can tell by me being only dual level 15 right now. But I would expect to see some Blue Eyes, some Dark Magician, and the other decks, people tend to just one-trick pony because they like them. Even if the Blue Eyes deck wasn't as good as it is right now, people would still be playing it. Okay, we are up first. I think we do want to use one of these melodies, and we can just get rid of the other one. Then we add 2 monsters to our hand. And speaking of Dark Magician, this might be it. They are on Battle Chronicle. Could still be another Blue Eyes player, going for a little bit of a fake out. but we will have to wait and see. I'm going to grab the Successor Soul here first and send this away. Go ahead, set the monster, and pass it over. Summoning a Dingirsu is a little bit more protection, but I like having the 2 bodies on board so that single pieces of removal that happen to work on Dingirsu aren't going to be enough to clear. And Grave, for sure, I'm just going to be playing Speed for the gems. It's a little bit fun as a side mode, but I definitely prefer Rush Duel. And I was right, they are actually playing on Blue Eyes instead. It cannot attack, but I wasn't going to be attacking with this alternative at any point anyway. I'm planning to Successor Soul it away at the first opportunity. But that is an incredibly weak opener. Blue Eyes alternative destroys the monster. Then Dingirsu removes the Swords of Revealing Light. Then they are going to have no cards on the field. All we need to do is summon Blue Eyes, and that is going to be game. Battle and swing. There was a slight possibility of a card like Kite Void, but it is rare enough that I'm not going to delay the game on that off chance. They also would have had no cards left in hand to recover with, though I suppose a stone was in the graveyard. Alright, and next up is a Yuya. The only skill on Yuya that I am familiar with is Raging Pendulum. But okay, time to learn about this. Add Dark Rebellion to the extra deck. Place 2 cards into the Pendulum Zone. By getting rid of whatever 2 you have. Okay. Then, if there's a fusion monster, which I might have, they are able to use... They're able to attach these as Xyz material. But it's actually a Lunalight deck anyway. Which is interesting. I guess we'll see what they make, and then try to just out all of it. Tiger King is able to grab them the Tenki. Then this negate is not a quick effect. So not a huge deal from the Tiger King. Martin. Able to return the Tiger. And then let it use its effect again. Assuming it did use its effect earlier. I'm actually not convinced it did, though. And plenty of back row. So, the most important part of this board is going to be all of that back row we need to work through. Let us do it one piece at a time. Start by special summoning the alternative. And we will see if this baits out anything. And activate the effect. And we'll go ahead and clear out Tiger King. And it looks like they have something here. Reincarnation Dance lets them add 2 Lunalight monsters to their deck. Or to their hand. But adding them to the hand is not a huge deal. We're going to Successor Soul here. And send this to the graveyard to send this to the graveyard. And maybe even get another Blue Eyes out of the process. Alright, and they actually have... Oh, they have a Crimson Fox that they can negate this effect with. I probably should have noticed that. And played it a little bit differently. But that is still fine with me. We see a Wolf and a Kaleido Chick. I think it's worth going for the push here. Let's activate Battle Chronicle. Grab Ultimate Fusion. And then send Blackluster Soldier to the graveyard. Then we Ultimate Fusion. And we're gonna go for our ultimate boss monster, Neo Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon. We use these 3 cards. Summon out this. And Ultimate Fusion is going to let us destroy whatever their face down set card is. No, it can only target face up cards. In that case, Martin is the correct choice. Crack down onto the board, and we swing in for 4,500. But they have a trap. Unfortunately, it is Drowning Mirror Force, and we are probably going to be losing this game. I'm going to wait until they bring in their big fusion monster. And then try to use Crackdown on it. So they've made the name Panther Dancer. They still need to be able to actually fusion summon. But they do have a wolf in hand. So we wait for this to come out. Lunalight Wolf, activating the effect, sending a bunch of Flicker monsters from the graveyard to the Banish Zone. Leo Dancer, of course. And then Kaleido Trick does something here that I am not familiar with. Wait, oh, and this card cannot be targeted. So we're gonna take a quick loss. But that's my bad. Probably could have played that better. But I'm just gonna play the one more for the gem. I remembered the one that couldn't be destroyed by battle and the one that generally couldn't be destroyed. I had to forget about the untargetable one. I probably could have played that a little bit more carefully. And obviously I misplayed with the Successor Soul. I probably should have just gone into the Ding Irsu to remove the Mirror Force instead. Let us start with a Melody. Discard the Bingo Machine. Set up our regular hand. And we'll save the Skullmeister for whatever graveyard effect our opponent is throwing at us. We're also definitely going to grab Successor Soul for a little bit of extra protection. 2 points of interaction is hopefully enough to turn off their engine. Go for the 1 and pass. Alright, and they are running Speed Voids as expected. Terratop is fine. Now, I need to remember that they have some kind of fusion or some synchro that just destroys the entire board. So I need to prevent, I think it's a level 5 or 6. Let me see if I can find it. Oh, it's Kite Drake, which is level 8. So far, so good. Piper is going to banish this card from the grave. No. Add a card to hand. Also, let me make sure I counted the levels correctly. Okay, Kite Drake is level 8 and not level 7. So we need to wait for them to do some kind of level modulation. Also, they have a Chalice here. Wait, that doesn't really do anything. I'm pretty sure level 7 is fine. That is just the baby, Clear Wing, which is not as threatening as Crystal Wing, to the best of my knowledge. I suppose we will find out momentarily. When another level 5 or higher monster activates the effect, negate it, and then a monster effect can also be negated. But it has to be a monster effect. So I should still be able to get rid of the Synchro Dragon with my Successor Soul once they start committing. Okay, so we're gonna do it. Wait, but we can't respond to the skill. So now they actually do to go into the Kite Drake because I didn't use it on the Clear Wing immediately. That is just me not knowing how the skill works, which is my bad. It is what it is. Kite Drake will be destroying this board. However, we are going to at least be able to destroy it as well with the Successor Soul. So it's not going to be swinging in for 3,000. Had I known ahead of time, I obviously would have sent the Clear Wing right away. But my plan was when they got to level 1 on the field is when I would do it. Alright, Forbidden Chalice. It's going to negate... Oh, they have a Lance as well. I see. So, I mean, I guess I would have been able to stop the Successor Soul either way then. Speed Recovery brings back any monster from their graveyard. Hopefully, they are able to just kill us this turn. And we will call it a day. I'll take another look and see if anybody is playing Rush over on Twitch. But of course it is mostly players over in Stage 2 of Speed. Alright, another Clear Wing, and that is lethal. All you need to do is swing in with their monsters. We know one of the 2 set cards is the Chalice, but it doesn't really matter as we have no cards on board. Send them a nice, and that is going to be it for today. Thank you to everybody who joined me for the King of Games climb over on the Rush Duel side. Let's just finish out by grabbing our rewards. And we are looking to be in a pretty healthy gem situation once again. Back above 7,000. Though there is another Rush box coming out at the end of the month, so we might need to be a little bit worried about it. Am I able to grab the final playmat? I am. So we grab this. And then we'll be able to open up a few Rush packs as the event finishes to try to find another copy of Goki Bore. And that is it. See you